I'm attempting to complete every single GameCube game, and I'm using a random number generator to pick the next game. Last episode, we became superheroes again, but this time from a movie, and played the Fantastic Four. And in this episode, we're going to collect some souls in a Disney World and play the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion was released on October 16th, 2003, and was developed by High Voltage Software and published by TDK Media Active. This game surprised me how much I actually liked it, and I even 100%ed the game. Before we get started, make sure to like this video because it helps out the channel, and subscribe if you're new so you don't miss any of the future games. Without further ado, this is my experience with the Haunted Mansion. In the Haunted Mansion, we're going to go through the new game mode to consider this one complete. The Haunted Mansion follows Zeke, an inspiring author that takes a job from the newspaper to be the caretaker of a mansion tucked away in New Orleans, Louisiana. Upon his arrival at the mansion, he meets 6 friendly ghosts that have become trapped there by our main villain of the game, Atticus Thorne, a man that wants to take all the souls in the mansion to take over the afterlife. Zeke is tasked to collect all the souls in the mansion and take down Thorne with the help of the 6 friendly ghosts and a crystal ball named Madame Leota. She gives him the Beacon of Souls, which is just a lantern to help him collect the souls and fight the evil spirits in the mansion. That's the plot of this game. It's pretty simple, but this is based on a Disney movie of the same name and a ride at Disney World. The gameplay is an action-adventure with some combat using the lantern, puzzle solving, and some minor platform elements. Zeke is tasked with collecting souls so that new areas in the mansion can be opened to collect all 6 gems to make him stronger, so he can finally take on Thorne at the end of the game. I think that covers everything you need to know about the game itself, so let's get to collecting some souls. The game opens up with a cutscene that explains everything about the story, so I won't go into too much detail about that. And then we meet Madame Leota, and she gives us our lantern and explains what we need to do. She then tells us about the gems we need to collect and gives us the first one. When we finally get to play as Zeke, we're put into this room where we get to face our first enemies of the game. These flying ghost things. We just have to shoot them with the lantern until they're gone and flip on the light switch in the room. Once we turn on the light in the room, then the enemies go away and we can collect the souls that are trapped in objects around the room. That's how we'll know when the room is complete and we can move on to the next one. The game is linear in this way because we can't open doors until we have enough souls, and usually they go in some sort of order. So we can only open one door at a time. Lying around the mansion are bottles of tonic, aka whiskey, that will restore our health, or Zeke's bravery meter in this game. We also have the amount of lives we have under the image of Zeke. This means we can deplete our meter this many times before we get a game over. This doesn't happen often to me in this game, but sometimes I do get game overs and have to reload the game, so I would recommend saving the game as much as possible. There are fortune cards around the mansion as well. By collecting 10 of these, we'll get an extra life. So since they're really easy to get, this is something I would recommend doing so you don't have to get game overs all the time. The main item we need to get is death certificates for each of the friendly ghosts. We get parts of these as we complete rooms. Once they're complete, we can find the ghost that it matches, and that ghost will remember how they got there and grant us the gem that they're holding. We get the 15 souls that we need to collect and head out into the foyer, which is going to be our hub for the next few rooms. As we're leaving, a scythe-wielding ghost is close behind. We don't have to deal with it currently, so I won't talk about it until later. Once in the foyer, we come across our first grandfather clock. These will let you save the game whenever you want, so I would always come back to them and save after every room so I wouldn't have to do any of them more than one time. I just wanted to show how to save the game because I think it's important to the player. There are a bunch of rooms throughout the mansion, and they all have their own puzzle to solve or enemies to take down, but I'm just going to cover the puzzles that I find the most interesting, and any boss fights that we have along the way. The first room had a puzzle that I found interesting that had us platforming on books, so that we could reach the higher area in the room. The books only showed up once we land on the previous ones, and they fly into place. It's nothing crazy, but I found this one interesting, and it also leads us to a brand new item, called the Mumbo Doll. This item increases how large our bravery meter is. Think of it as adding more hearts in The Legend of Zelda. We flip the light on in the room and we're able to collect the final piece to the first death certificate, the one for the man known as the Duelist. Heading into the next room, we get close to the window and trigger a fight with a giant spider. This isn't really a boss, but at this point in the game, it's a stronger enemy, so I would consider this some sort of mini-boss. Later in the game, we'll come across them a lot more, but it's not really anything to take them out. Once defeating it, we get taken into the pool table. I would think it actually shrinks us down, but there isn't anything in the background, so I'm not sure exactly. However, this puzzle is amazing, and the reason that I started to like this game. The puzzle is neat because there is an invisible force that will shoot the cue ball at us. We have to use this to have it knock all the balls into the holes, leaving the 8 ball last. It's a bit tricky to get lined up, but I think it's super cool. We're able to clear the table, make an amazing shot on the 8 ball, and then the light switch falls down from absolutely nowhere, and we can go flip it to get out of the pool table. This puzzle gets 10 out of 10 for me. Once we escape the table, we get a cutscene where the Duelist shows up. We show him his death certificate, and he talks to us for a while until he gives us the next gem, the purple gem. Each gem gives us an upgrade for the lantern. This can increase the power of shot from the lantern, how many we can shoot, and even gives us the power shot that we have to charge, but it will do more damage. I won't go over all of them, but it's just something to keep in mind for later in the game. These gems for the most part make the game easier. We now have 2 gems, the white one and the purple one. This also allows for us to open the hallway as the next hub area. This area has so many rooms, and we just have to go back and forth going to the rooms that we can get into. We do come across a brand new enemy in the kitchen area. It's some ghoul that looks like the Ring Girl. She tries to get us to come closer, but Zeke doesn't move, so she shows us her face and lets out this awful scream. She's not hard to take out, and 3 charged shots is enough to take her down without her even touching us. The kitchen has a neat puzzle that has a ghost throwing plates at us from across the room. We have to stand in the right spots for it to break the wine bottles, so that we can get the fire on the ground all the way over to the fireplace. This one took me a while to figure out because the way it throws is different every time, or at least that's what it felt like. The next room is a large dining hall, and we have to collect candles by lighting them with the candles that we have lit. It looks like Zeke is just having a Congo line with candles, and I'm completely here for this. After completing some other rooms, we come across this massive room with an organ at the far end. When we get close to it, it whips up some high-speed winds, and we get blown all the way back to the entrance of the room. We can't walk into the wind because it's too strong, so we have to use the spiders in the room to get back over to the organ. We can do this by having them hit us with webs and dragging us closer. Once we get close enough, another spider will appear, and we have to get that spider to web us. Then we kill the previous spider so that we can continue further into the room. It's not that hard, but it does take a while to get it right. Once at the end of the room, we move closer to the organ, and a massive spider comes down to fight us. We have to get this one to web us too, and then we can shoot it until we take it down. This is still not hard, but the spider has much more health. Once we take it down, the wind stops and we can look around the room freely. Our piece is shortly lived, however, because Thorn shows himself to us for the first time and we have to fight him. This is going to be the first of many fights with him throughout the game, this one being the easiest one. In this fight, we have to stand away from him as he releases a bunch of bugs that will come right for us. We just have to shoot him to take his health down and avoid the bugs. Once we do some damage to him, he will teleport to a new area in the room, and we have to run over to him and continue hitting him. This one is super easy, and we can one-shot the bugs, so overall this fight isn't hard at all. Just getting over him can be a hassle because of all the bugs. After the boss fight with Thorn, we meet another friendly ghost. This is a man that can play the organ, so I think he's some sort of musician, and he gives us the orange gem, and then plays us a nice song so we can leave the area. The orange gem gives us the power shot. This will allow for us to charge our attack before releasing it at an enemy. This does more damage, and some enemies can only take damage from these shots, so it's something we need to figure out when we get to those enemies. The next area is called the Catacombs, and for the most part there isn't much going on. But we do get this enemy gauntlet where we have to survive for 3 minutes and waves of enemies will continue to attack us. This part isn't that bad other than this gargoyle. This thing can do a lot of damage with its attacks, and shooting it normally doesn't do any damage. So we have to charge our power shot in this fight in order to do anything. I found that running around in a circle was the easiest way to deal with this gauntlet, and I was able to finish it my first try, losing only 1 life. Once we finish the fight, all the torches in the area light themselves, and we can collect the souls and the cards in the catacombs and head to the next area. The next area has us switching the room around so that we can get into the wine cellar to flip the switch. Once we flip it, however, Thorn shows up, turns it all back off, and we have to fight him again. This fight isn't really any different than the previous encounter with him, other than he shoots fire orbs at us now that we can easily move out of the way to avoid. He still releases bugs at us too, but overall this fight isn't that challenging. He also will teleport more often in this fight if we're too close to him, so staying away will cause him to not teleport as frequently, making this fight much easier. Once the fight is over, we meet the knight that is missing a head friendly ghost, and he talks to us like the other ones. They don't really tell us anything important, so that's why I'm skipping over all the dialogue here, and he gives us the next gem. He gives us the yellow gem, and this will let us shoot the weaker shots at a faster pace. This is a very helpful upgrade and makes the game much easier. One of the next rooms is the toy room of the mansion, and when we come inside, we get sucked into a toy chest. This is one of the really good puzzles in the game. This has us moving around on top of toy blocks while riding on a marble. It's a bit challenging to get used to how the movement works, but I was able to figure this one out pretty easily. The hardest part of this area is riding up these blocks that are lifts. They're pretty small blocks, so we have to make sure that we just jump in place so we don't accidentally roll off of them and have to start over. It's a total of 3 lifts, so it's not that hard, but without jumping over and over again, I kept falling off because of the rolling of the marble. This puzzle isn't that hard, but I really like this one. The next main room we have to complete is one that has us moving the angles of mirrors so that we can reflect the moonlight to the other side of the room to light up this light bulb globe thing. This puzzle took me a minute to figure out because there are so many mirrors we have to adjust. Once we light the bulb at the end, we get another visit from our old friend Thorn. This time, the only new thing he does is shoot us with fire orbs that come out in 3s. Still not hard to avoid, but I lost a life in this fight because I was being greedy and went for more shots on him instead of just jumping over the fire orbs. He teleports and shoots the larger fire orbs, but there aren't any bugs in this fight, so that's nice at least. Once we take him down in the fight, we meet the next friendly ghost. I'm going to call her the opera singing ghost. She has this Viking helmet on too, but man does she got some pipes. She gives us the next gem we need, the blue gem. This one is a power-up for our charge shot, allowing for us to do more damage with it. I don't use it a ton, but this will be helpful when battling gargoyles in the game. The next really cool puzzle is the knights on the chessboard puzzle. And we have to do this a total of 5 times, with the knights all being in different places each time. But the idea here is that we can't let the knights look at us. Some will move and some will spin, others will stand in place. We have to cross to the other side of the board without the knights seeing us, or we have to restart from the beginning of the board. I wouldn't say this is all that difficult, but I thought this was a fun one and it deserved to get highlighted. Next comes the scariest part in the whole game. We go into this old bedroom and check out the closet. Once inside, there isn't anything there, but when we go to leave, the door closes, and then the dead end becomes a path that we have to figure out where the exit is. This sounds easy, right? But that creature from the beginning with the scythe is chasing us, and if he catches up to us, we die and we have to try again. Not that hard, but we move so slow in this game, and not knowing the path is challenging. There are even holes in the ground that we can fall into, and if we fall into them, we're basically done for. To figure out which direction we need to turn, we need to follow the mice on the ground, so that helps out a lot with this part. Once we escape the closet, we think we're nice and safe, but he cuts his way out of the closet, and we have to fight him one-on-one. Honestly, he's not as hard as he looks, but I did die in the first fight with him, and I had to do the whole closet part again. That was a bit frustrating. Once that fight is over, the lights turn on in the room, and we can collect the souls there. You would think that the friendly ghosts would be in this room, but they're actually in the next room where we have to change the room until the walls and the walkways are all correct. It's a super simple puzzle, and I would think that they would have put the ghosts in the last room and not in this one, but I guess not. Anyways, we meet the next friendly ghost here. I'm going to call her Lady in the Rocking Chair. She gives us the red gem, and I skipped the part where it tells you what the upgrade is for this one, and I don't remember what it did. I think it let us shoot faster or do more damage, considering most of them do that at this point in the game. The next puzzle that was pretty cool was the one that we look through a telescope, and then we have to jump from tower piece to tower piece while floating in space. The gravity is different in this area, and it lets us jump higher and further away. This is another one I really enjoyed while playing this. After that, we have to travel through the walls and change all these paintings into the nice versions of themselves to solve the puzzle. Another puzzle that isn't that challenging or anything, but I thought it was pretty neat. One of the last rooms has us going to the attic where we have to take out a bunch of enemies and find the last friendly ghost called the Pirate Ghost. Since we collected all the gems at this point in the game, he gives us a ring that will let us open a door in the foyer that we couldn't open at the beginning of the game. This makes us backtrack all the way to the beginning hub area, which is okay because we haven't been there in a while. So we make the journey back to the foyer and unlock the door hidden behind a painting. And then we head into a room that once we drop down into it, it lowers a bit so we're trapped inside. Once it's done lowering, there is a door, and since we can't go back out the way we came, we are forced to enter the door. This takes us into an arena area where Thorn is waiting for us. We get a long cutscene, but I'm going to sum it up because it drags a bit too long for my taste. So he tells us that he's after more than just the afterlife, and he wants there to be death and more death. Basically, he wants to kill everything, then he steals our lantern and takes all the souls we collected, and all the gems we had been given throughout the story. These give him a bunch of power. With this power, he turns into this giant bug creature. I don't know why anyone would want to turn into a thing like that. But he's super happy, and he wants to show us his power. We try to shoot him with the lantern, but it doesn't have the power to do any damage to him. So we put Madam in the lantern, and with her power we can do some damage. Then the cutscene ends and we get to fight him. This fight can be really hard if you don't know what to do, but I found that jumping in a circle and shooting the whole time is the best method. There are tonic that spawn on both sides of the circle, and by jumping in a circle we're going to collect them every single time we pass, so health isn't much of an issue. He shoots at us, but by jumping in a circle we avoid all of his shots, so that's not a problem either. The only real issue we face during this part is when he charges up the gem on his stomach and causes this red aura to shoot out. I don't think there's any way to avoid the attack, but we can prevent it by shooting the gem enough while he's charging it. All we have to do in order to hit it is to move a bit closer to him. This is how I handled this whole fight, and after dying the first time facing him, the second time went great and I took him out without losing a single life. Once we take him down, he screams and falls back into his hole. We think we've defeated him, but he brings down the floor with him, and we fall into a lava pit with rocks that we can jump on, but nothing else. This causes us to go right into the second phase of the boss fight. There isn't much difference in this fight. He uses his squid legs to attack us, but they attack with space in between them, so we can shoot him and just stand in place until he starts to shoot us. And then we go back into the jumping in a big circle technique. There are still 2 tonics in the arena, so we can continue to get health, but this time the gem aura attack that he has cannot be stopped. Or at least I wasn't ever able to get it to be stopped. It's not that bad because we collect health right after it, so it sort of cancels out, but the fight is done the same way. He can also shoot fire out of his mouth during this fight, but since it's so easy to avoid, it's not really a talking point. Pretty simple for the final boss fight of the game. After taking down all of his health, he falls into the lava and we win. I have no idea how we can climb out of this area, but in the next cutscene, that's exactly what happens. There wasn't any way out, so how did he climb up there like that? Anyways, we get our final cutscene where all the ghosts congratulates us for winning the fight. We rescued all the souls and they're all free to leave the mansion finally. Zeke tells us that he lived there as a caretaker for a while longer before leaving to continue his work on becoming an author. Then we get the credits for the game. We finish this one, and at the end of the credits we get cheat codes if we wanted to go back through the game on a harder difficulty and use them. I thought that was cool because games don't really do this anymore. So would I recommend this game? I think I would recommend this game because for a movie tie-in game, it was really good. The story is average, but the puzzles are unique, and the areas in the game, for the most part, are very fresh and don't use the same ideas over and over again, like most puzzle games. So this is one that I would check out if you're looking to play through some GameCube games. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you want to know what's next, stick around, but if not, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video, and we'll see you in the next one. 5:31, we got our list up. So, on the count of 3, we are going to find out what we are playing next. So, in 3, 2, 1... 325, which is pretty close to where we are. 325 is One Piece Grand Adventure. Okay, well, looks like a One Piece game is next.